What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm the Crockneck.
I'm Jamin John.
And we have an album review for you. So, one that I don't know if I quite had on my radar, but it showed up on it, was the newest album from Culted, Nous. I think that's how you pronounce that. This came out on the 26th of February on Season of Mist's Underground Activists, kind of part of their label. This is creepy, blackened, sludge, doom, ambient,
murk,
horror. And yeah, we're going to get into that. This band formed in 2007 with members from both Canada and Sweden. The vocalist is from Sweden, and I forget the bands that he actually works on. And then the rest of the band is from Canada. This is their third full length. They have two other EPs, which I believe the other EPs are what I own. And, well, this is quite a listen. I will be completely honest, in terms of atmosphere and an overall feel of an album, this is one of the creepiest listens I've had this year. Granted, it's early.
Right. I wrote the same thing, actually.
But I'm reasonably sure this is still going to be on the list for creepiest albums I've listened to. Opening track, Lowest Class. Pretty much, all right, it already kind of like bothered me with the droning sort of ambience in the beginning. Like, I'm not even sure what's causing it. It might be like a layer of synths, because there are all sorts of like weird industrial and synths and just whatever noise they could find, they would loop it and make it sound horrifying. But you also get this speech about hypnotism, which I thought was weird, because this whole album definitely has a hypnotic feel, except this isn't going to your happy place. This is going to your miserable, scary place.
Yeah, right.
That's it. Now you get a little bit of like doomy riffage before the vocals kick in, and when the vocals kick in, oh my god, these vocals are horrifying, but absolutely perfect for what they were going for. And they really change around. Like, all right, there's almost always a static filter on dude's voice. And between shrieks, groans, growls.
But like whispered growls. Like, it's really...
Is it weird that the whispers are probably the most unsettling thing? Because all of it is just drenched in reverb and like someone screaming at you through a Fisher-Price microphone.
That's right. Yep.
It's kind of horrifying. Like, honestly, and I think that's the whole feel of this album, is to be just sort of the ugliest side of music in general. Now, when it comes down to production here, it kind of depends on what track you're listening to. Sometimes the guitars are really out in front and extra heavy. Sometimes they're a little bit more subdued and fuzzy. Sometimes they're entirely clean. Sometimes they're entirely acoustic. And it seems like they sort of mix these tracks with a different feel in mind. Like Lowest Class, one of the closing tracks, The Grid and Maze, all kind of have like an extra fuzzy, kind of dirty sound. Now, granted, none of this sounds really clean, but these sound really dirty.
Like in a garbage truck dirty.
Yeah, like what's left after all the garbage is out, whatever scum has still stuck to the base of it.
It's inside a grease trap.
Oh, if you worked in food, that smell is its own classification. I mean, in terms of like comparisons, in terms of their sound, it's really hard to draw like straight lines in terms of, they sound like this, like a combination of Neurosis, I Hate God, Cult of Luna, maybe, Amen Ra. But all of those, maybe minus I Hate God, don't really have all the filth and murk.
I know I keep going, ugh, but I mean, I don't feel right after this. We just jammed it, and I don't know. I don't know how well I'm going to sleep tonight. I think I might sleep with the fucking lights on, because...
I get it. I mean, I would... But, I mean, in terms of, like, their sound, there are a lot of dynamics on display here, and lots of interesting songwriting tropes. They kind of go all over the map, like, in terms of, like, maybe funeral doom, or almost more of a black metal feel, or just straight ambience.
The Grid is definitely funeral doom. That end on The Grid is... I don't want to say there's not a lot by way of melody, because there is. There's melody, it's just really, really creepy. Like in the song Blackbird, behind all the murk and the noise and the filth, there's this weird, I don't know if it's keyboards or synths. I don't know what it is.
I think it's a blend.
And it doesn't sound... It's definitely not in tune or on key. It's just like this harmonized batch of yuck.
But at the same time, like, it's kind of catchy. Like, it's strange. Like, this was kind of like an earworm in a way. And again, you have to kind of sift through all the murk and misery to find it, but it's there, and it's a really interesting hook. The song Lifers, I think, is one that stands out because it's probably the only one I would say is up-tempo. And the intro to it is very, very strange how it builds. Like, it has this, you know, droning sludge riff and like these distant melodies, and then all of a sudden the keyboards just take over. And it kind of gives it like a 90s industrial feel, like maybe like Ministry. Yeah, yep. That's what I thought of there. And then it kind of moves into almost kind of like a Death Doom song. The riffs get a bit chuggier.
I was going to say that there's like a nasty little chug there. A
nice solid groove to it. It's one of the most up-tempo ones on there again. And you actually have like some good like headbanging moments on there, but you know, it does not skimp on all of the atmosphere.
I was going to say, it still feels like you're in a sewer. Like I felt like I was in the sewers with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
You don't want to be there with those turtles. These turtles, if they've been listening to this album, no, they ain't good. They ain't in the right place. Now, this was one that I noticed in terms of the production changing, too. From the first track, Lowest Class, to this track, the guitars are notably heavier and chunkier. And again, I kind of think that might be on purpose. Either that or they were tracked at different times. They didn't remember the exact settings, but I don't think it's that. I think these guys know what they're doing. And I mean, it really kind of just makes it stand out a bit more because there are songs that just have a flat out heavier, chunkier tone.
In terms of like chunky tones and really, again, just kind of a creepy, almost like smelly vibe, like a sour smelling vibe, the song Maze. Actually, the first word I wrote for maze was ew. And that's what it is. You ever thought like you could smell a sound? Like, it smells moldy. Rotten. The sound smells moldy.
Someone left something out.
If I were to torture somebody, like, I think this is the music I would play in the background while waterboarding someone.
I mean, it worked. And it's a long song, too. It's one of the 8-minute tracks on here, which I thought was interesting because I have some of their previous stuff, and none of the songs on here go over the 10-minute mark. Most of the time, these guys will throw in, like, at least a couple songs over 10 minutes. But it was kind of interesting that they had this one tracked out differently. This one I think is particularly interesting in the way it was recorded because in the beginning you have this big creepy opening, which that can pretty much say for every song on here.
Right.
But you get these chants from hell layered in just horrible things, terrible. But after that, pretty much the band just kind of takes over. Like the synths and all the ambience sort of drops out, and all the ambience and all the atmosphere is created by the band and the vocals, which, believe me, they can do it on their own. When they add the other guy, it just becomes insanely crazy. But this song is very riffy. Like, it's very heavy. There's a lot of like old school Doom nods. Like, I picked up like some riffs that were very Saint Vitus-y.
See, I picked up like Spirit Caravan.
Sleep.
Yep.
I mean, it was just loaded in really solid riffs again, but you had still that atmosphere in there. Now the chants come back towards the end, but my God, when they do come back, you are greeted to one of the best riffs on the entire album.
Yep.
My God.
I compared it to Morbid Angel. It's a really heavy chug.
Yeah, and like, well, it has like those big like single chord just strokes, but then you get like a little like kind of hefty chug in there. And I mean, honestly, I thought of like God of Emptiness.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like in terms of
that's
that,
what I was thinking.
Yeah,
in
that
terms
really
of that
sludgy tone.
Yep.
Awesome song, and that kind of goes into Crown of Lies, which I would say is the creepiest song on here. This song is a really interesting build. It starts off with just synth atmosphere, and I don't want to call it spoken word because that just kind of doesn't do it enough justice. It's like Satan yelling into an oil drum.
Or a rotary phone.
It's horrible. Or the recording of Satan yelling into a oil drum from a rotary phone.
There you go, because
it's so vile and evil sounding. Like, it really sounds evil. There's a very industrial gothic feel to it. The synths are droning and huge. And this song really sticks to this part for a while, and then slowly you start hearing like a clean guitar come in, but the synths are still in the background, which really keeps it heavy and dark. And then towards the end, you finally get this big funeral doom payoff, which, my God, again, another one of the heaviest moments on this album.
I'd say during parts of this song, it's the most like hopeless, bleak, just void of light and life is in the end of this song.
It's the cold, dark void of space. Actually, I compared it to if Satan, David Lynch, and John Carpenter got together and wrote the score to a horror movie. Satan did vocals. And yes, all of that.
Yep, I'm frightened.
But I love the way the song builds. Like, it has this really cool ebb and flow. Like, it starts off very haunting, then the clean guitars come in and give you just a little bit of sereneness, not much, and then doom comes down like a sledgehammer. And
but you do get that cool little drum groove in there too, but it's not long. It's like 30 seconds maybe of a drum groove, and then it's just back to
doom.
Blah.
Now, in terms of negatives on here, Opiate the Hounds is pretty much one long ambient track with just like an acoustic guitar and then just, ambient noise in the background and more spoken word. Now, granted, the spoken word stuff is very effective. It feels like a long, dark confession to something horrible. This dude may have done some shit. But unfortunately, you get that on a lot of other tracks. And having one track like that kind of makes it stand out as a bit of a lull on here. Like, there's no point where it gets heavy or really sort of changes the feel. It just kind of stays stagnant.
Which, again, for this album, if you really want to creep somebody out, I mean, all these songs, there's not a moment where I didn't feel uncomfortable jamming this.
Yeah.
So
the last little bit to cap off the album, though, I thought was pretty interesting. They did a cover of Godflesh's Crush My Soul from Selfless and somehow made it sound more twisted and dark than Godflesh, which, Jesus, mission accomplished, man. That's kind of messed up, too. But I kind of like this because the more I listened to it and heard all those like dark industrial influences, this was a band that kind of came to mind. And they did a solid job. Granted, it is longer than the original by like almost 3 minutes, but they did a good job building tension. It's a solid cover. It is kind of a different kind of cover in terms of they took it in their direction with their sound, but they captured the feel of the song, and it was a pretty bleak way to close the album. And yeah, this album is fucked up.
You know how like sometimes when we review albums like this, I make a joke like I'm gonna go home and listen to this in the dark by myself. I'm not doing that with this one. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure as the record goes on, I felt like I was becoming increasingly possessed, more possessed and more uncomfortable. It's a really creepy kind of skin crawling feeling.
Like a chill going up your spine, except really slowly.
Yes, just like.
But I mean, overall, I was entranced by this. I really was. I was drawn in by a lot. Like musically, in terms of finding hooks, it's a little bit more difficult, but this is an engaging listen. So overall, I'm going to give it 4 stars. This is something I really want to come back to, not by myself or in the dark.
It's going to be a daytime listen amongst friends.
Definitely. But I really found a lot of stuff that I liked in here in terms of atmosphere. Like, in terms of atmosphere, if you want to actually drive that thing home and make them feel a certain way, they did it. They really did it. Because, I mean, this one, it kind of got to me like the more I listened to it, but it's still at the same time, I still found riffs, the occasional melody, not a pleasant one. And I have to say, like, they just really created something dark and ominous, and it's something you can really feel. And I really appreciated that the most. I think the songwriting is pretty damn cool too. There's lots of cool dynamics. They choose to build songs in certain ways, and they know how to build tension. And again, it's tension like looking over your shoulder, making sure shadows aren't moving, sort of things. But this is a creepy listen, and if you love that, my God, listen to this album. It's, yes, just do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. Ugh. I really feel unwell, to be honest, after jamming this. Like, you know those YouTube videos of people that go through old abandoned malls and like there's water dripping in a corner and you're never sure whether or not you saw something move off in the dark in the distance. That's what this is like. There are melodies scattered throughout, and the melodies that are here are kind of neat. There are moments where there are actual hooks in these songs, which you don't hear a whole lot in music like this.
More like hooks, like, like a big hook in your back and you're being strung up.
Yeah. But like that. The change in production was a little odd. I think it takes away not having everything at least uniformed across the board as far as everything sounds. Like, you can still make it creepy and atmospheric and whatever, but it sounded like the tone of the guitar and the overall production of things, like you had a lot of murk and then you had some murk. I really feel creeped out. Think I might, I don't know, listen to something more upbeat, less creepy. I don't think I'm gonna sleep.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. Also, we have a giveaway going on right now once we hit 4,500 subs, which is less than 50 away.
I was gonna say we're
less than 50.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
we're giving away a nice little bundle of 3 CDs and a vinyl. And again, thank you guys very much. We love doing this, and we love the response, and you guys are helping us out immensely, and we're glad we can keep delivering you really cool content and keep telling you about all these weird albums like this one that are out there that you should not listen to in the dark by yourself. So with that, I thank you all very much, and we will catch you later.